Hey everyone. Today is April the 24th. It's a Monday, and a very short update for you of a couple of things that have come to mind. The first is I was shared recently that the television show Westworld has been canceled. And as you know, I've given some details on season one. I haven't gone into sharing any details of any seasons further than that, but I know a number of people have expressed a lot of they feel there's a lot, particularly, I guess, in season four, which I haven't seen, but it's been canceled. It's not getting a lot of publicity. If you just search it, you'll find that it has been. It was supposed to be the season coming up was supposed to be its final season. No, there's been no real explanation as to why it's been canceled. It's just that it is canceled. So there's a lot of speculation. The normal speculation, well, the episodes are too costly, which is true. Was a very costly series, right? It's kind of like Game of Thrones and the expensive amount of money that had to be thrown in on the episodes. But given they were so close to the end, that seems like a very strange answer. And I'm wondering if, and some others that I've talked to are wondering, kind of like what was happening with Lost, the series was starting to show a bit too much detail that a bit too much behind the curtains of what this reality is, that somebody decided we better pull the plug on this. Lost, they wrapped it up with a misdirection final year, right? But they could have done that with Westworld, but they just stopped it. Now, I'm saying this to you because what I think is interesting, because I think and this is just a observation, but it seemed like in what I'd read that the episodes currently are not accessible via the HBO site itself somehow, that they've taken down the episodes and then they're going to put the previous episodes up somewhere else. So the question is, will they be editing out some things in the episodes? Will they be changing some things so that when they return online again, sort of in a more complete package for people to just sign up and watch, the episodes won't be exactly the same. So I'm saying that if this series, if for some reason is very important to you, you think you really want to see what might have been there, I would go out and get the DVDs for these episodes now while they're still available. I don't think any DVDs that are for sale, through any of these major companies would have anything changed in them yet. Now, of course, with the Mandela effect, yes, they can change them and whatever else, yes. But the point being is right now, probably the DVDs, at least for sure, whether something will be changed or not, who knows. But if it's important to you for some reason, if you really want to look into this, I get the DVDs. What else can I tell you about? I don't know about you, but while I've been working on my new book and new books, plural, I haven't looked at anything YouTube oriented. I pop by some of the very good news channels once in a while just to update on what's going on behind the scenes that is not normally being presented, and just updating on what they're showing us with whatever it's being AI or. So but other than that, I just watched. I've been popping into so little, and even when I go and check, there's nothing. There's nothing that's drawing me that's saying, "Yeah, I really want to see this. I really like to watch this." Or they're just. I don't know if that's just me. That might be. I don't know if it's you guys as well, but there's very few things I've actually put myself into and watching. And I know there's been an interesting also question that's come to me so many times of like, where do I find a teacher? Where do I find the person who's going to help me? Where do I find, and I mean, that's a journey in itself to find someone who can really teach you. One of the things I think we're starting to locate and realize now is that generally anything that's majority of things that are out there now, the majority of things that are popular are just simple conglomerations of things that are out there. There's not a lot of depth to it. We don't know how much of the stuff is actually being made by AI itself. It's not actually being made by human people, that it's just AI churning out um, specific boxed in ideologies. I think that's why something like Wayne Bush's site was so valuable, the trickbythelight.com. He wasn't, of course, 25 years old now. He wasn't trying to say he had all the answers to everything. He just did a bunch of research and then, in a sense, made a repository of what he found. And it's a giant starting point of so many different details and levels connected with trying to understand this reality. I've been reading some books as part of my, I don't call it break, part of my other writing has been looking into some native Indian, not native, we'll call them native, native Aboriginal type research. So not just North American Indian, but Australian Aboriginal, getting more of a sense of how their societies were structured, how they interacted with each other, with the world, with nature, to try to remind everyone and myself that it's like a two-sided work. You can't just do thinking you're going to escape the matrix and that's all you're going to focus on. You have to focus on what's going on in the reality as well. Even though it may be, even though it is illusionary and is a type of simulation, you can't ignore your interaction with it. And it's recognizing that ancient cultures had particular ways of operating within the dream state, to try to navigate it in a much better way and to collectively handle the challenges and the structures of this place. And so it's this, where's the balance? Because they certainly weren't about exiting the matrix. If anything, they were about extending it. But they still had ways that made their life much more simple, much more refined, much more, with much more time for thought and thinking and dance and just being a part of life. That they weren't work oriented 24-hour a day cultures. So I've been putting some time into that. And just a reminder that's something else I've been doing, which I think is quite valuable, which is not forgetting that you are in a simulated reality, but you're in it. You and I are functioning in this thing, as crazy as it might be. And what are the best ways to navigate it so that we don't waste? So we waste the least amount of energy in order to do the work required to prepare oneself to leave the matrix, to leave the cave. One of the things required is time. You need to generate time to dig into what you need to dig into, and you need the energy involved to create the depth to it. And then you're going to need the energy. You're going to need a ball of energy to propel yourself, you might say, through the trapping system. And that can only come from how you navigate day-to-day reality. It means everything is possible, from everything from how do you eat, how do you spend your leisure time, how do you interact with nature, what are your relations to the things in your life, how are you using it to expand your awareness and expand your energy, but increase and store your energy rather than losing it. And so I've been looking into some of that, and just as you know, I'm writing my Exit the Cave 2 for myself, and I'm beginning to put together the package and the structure of how I want to do that. The other book, the historical book's coming on very, very well. I think it's going to be a very surprising topic and a very surprising examination when it's ready in a few months for all of you. And I think, and I hope that all of you will be really interested, even though it may not be a subject, say, well, I don't want to read a book about this. That kind of doesn't interest me. I think it will. When you see the number of connecting points that I've put into this study, I'm hoping you'll find that it's as interesting to read as it's unbelievably as interesting for me to study right now. So that's coming along. Um, yeah, beyond all that, I guess. And then I noticed a lot of comments have been coming lately on my Southern France series. I've noticed that way more than I thought would still be of people going to read the Rennes le Chateau story and the Cathars and whatnot. And so, and I know a number of people have asked me to, well, why don't you write this in a book? There's so many challenges for me to put that material into book form, and because the research in the field changes so quickly. Every 3 or 4 or 5 years, there's a whole new wave of research that comes in, and you kind of have to be, if you're going to present it, particularly for me to present it in book form, it requires first of all, tremendous amount of work to update yourself with what's new in the field, you might say. A tremendous, some of the best work, of course, is done in French, which is not my natural language. So, say half of all the really good research is kind of inaccessible to me. So I'm stuck with having to dig with the research that's being done in only that's presented in English, which is a loss. So because of that, I don't know if I'm going to actually go directly further in presenting more of the material. But that could change. That could change at some point. But thank you, by the way, for the people who are still getting something of value out of those videos, because I think those are almost 2 years old now that I started those, and of course they're 7 or 8 years old of when I was researching them, which was back maybe more than that, maybe 12 or 15 years old when I began that research. So I guess that's it. I just wanted to bring out the Westworld cancellation, which seems kind of odd. That the work is going fine. The research is going fine. I still think my August readiness for the new history book should be ready for everybody. And yeah, reminder to find ways to. I guess the point when I was talking about Wayne Bush, and I'll end with this. I guess when I brought that up was people are so looking for a guide. They're so looking for, and this has been kind of the spiritual search for 50 or 60 years, right? And you might say once people turned away from religion, and the majority felt, well, the religions don't have the answer for me. There was all of a sudden the New Age movement to give them the direction they were hoping for. And so as one thing was being rejected, this other thing was all of a sudden, particularly by the young of the time, was being latched upon as having the pathway and the trust of teachers to follow. And that underlying New Age movement has now, I don't want to use the word infected, but that's a really good way of using it. It's infected the whole, what you might call, spiritual seeking since then. So first of all, it's very hard to dig into anything or to any teacher or to any writing that doesn't have this, that hasn't in some way walked through the New Age movement, that isn't really locked in some way to what was before the New Age movement ever exploded on the scene in the 60s and 70s, that is linked somehow before that. And that includes myself. I'm realizing that there were so many parts of that you just 20, 25 years ago, that was, you couldn't avoid it. It was in your face all the time. It was in the books that were coming out that were the most popular. It was there, and it's taken years to dig through all of that and begin, you might say, removing the infection, right, of those ideas, of those materials, and trying to find what's left. No question, Exit the Cave for me was was finally a presentation of, once you get a lot of that soupy stuff out, what have you got left? So for those who are looking for teachers or somebody who can help guide us, because I think that's what we all would like. We'd like somebody who is way further on the path than us to guide us. And I know some people think of me in that way through these videos, and that's not really what I'm trying to do. I'm presenting I'm presenting parts of my own story and parts of my own journey and parts of my own ideas of what I've come to see, because there's to me an underlying focus that if you're going to go anywhere on the spiritual path, you have to share not everything, but you have to share some of your own path with others. If you're not sharing, if you only keep it to yourself, there'll be a limit to how far you can go. There's a natural completeness to the journey, which also includes um, being able to share with others what you've found. And so that's really a part of what's been going on. I don't want anyone to think I've got answers for you. I know sometimes some people have, over the course of my life, have had some help um, in some way from interactions with me or reading my material. But when people ask, well, who's the teacher? Who's someone that can really help us? And it's a it's a very difficult question to examine, because who has who has still a lot of purity that's not, affected by things like the new age, is not affected by the overuse, not overuse, just the use of drugs. Drugs will create all sorts of um, abnormalities in the ways of seeing and understanding. Whose mind has been clear and not going into unstable places when they're going through all this. That's a lot, and they can all of a sudden move themselves into the teacher role. And who's not trying to create an organization and create a giant business structure for themselves out of it. So I know it's so difficult to find those that you can really, the field that has this depth, have this knowledge, have this experience, have the ability to share their experience with others. There's some out there that I'm sure are really, really knowledgeable in but they don't have the natural ability to share easily. It's just not something that's natural to them. It's difficult, right? So has the ability to share some of what they do, and are in this way relatively, well, what's the word I can say? Relatively, just there for the journey, not there for their own power or importance or status. So it's very, very difficult. I say that from myself sometimes when I look like, and I'm back to, who do I want to listen to? Who do I want to actually go, and whose videos do I think has some really good value to them? I'm still looking myself. I'm still now. There's lots that were valuable for a while over the course of the last 4 or 5 years, and that's great. But myself, at least I can say this for myself, I'm in a very different place than 5 years ago, and a very different, what I would say, requirements of the journey now. And so, I mean, of course, I've gone back to original texts as much as possible, going back to what, just like I was saying yesterday, I was saying, the challenge, like so we have these Gnostic Gospels, which are, in a sense, similar to religious type texts of information, but we don't have what the Gnostics say about them. We don't have their commentary. We don't have their discussion. We don't have how they would use that in ceremony or understanding, or as an exercise, or as an understanding. We just have the text. And it's like, but what was their interpretation of the text, and how did they use it, and what did they do with it, and how did they deal with each other and the world, and the other world, and the preparation for their death? We don't have any of that, right? That's all been destroyed over time. Thankfully, we were still lucky enough, because of what was done in Nag Hammadi, that we at least have the original scriptures from them, but we don't have any of the details, right? We have nothing. And so even to go back and read stuff like that in the past, right, is challenging because all we have is some documents. We don't have the information of what did they do with the documents. It's one thing. I had that problem when I was working with the pyramid texts directly when I was writing the Power Then, and I was going through various Egyptian funerary texts, and it's like, okay, I've got the text. I've been there. I've actually, had the experience of, like I've talked about, the experience of touching them and being with them, and the power that just is there in them, in their physical form. But it's like, okay, what do they really mean? Yeah, I've got all this symbology, and okay, this can mean this, but what did that mean for the ones who were using this information in their day-to-day existence and in their ritual? And how would it be different between a temple? What was going on in a temple? Was the temple being used to help society? Was the temple being used to close down and control society? All of this stuff is very, very open for question because we don't have any of that. You just have the text. So it also makes it challenging to say, well, I'm going back to the oldest text available. Okay, you've got these texts, but you don't really know what the people who wrote them and were originally using them were using them for, and how they were using them, and how they were interpreting them. We only have how we think they should be interpreted. So it makes it such a challenging piece of work. And so I'm going to end this with a message of don't be discouraged. Don't feel overwhelmed if you're going into these materials. That's part of the process. Part of the process is feeling way undermanned, like way just lost. And then when you throw in how the society has been pushing down on everything natural in the dream, right? It doesn't matter whether it's just on every level. I mean, just pick up all the crazy stuff that has become our society, has become the way people have tried, the way those in charge, the influencers, right, have tried to alter and change everything of human behavior. It makes it difficult to even figure out how to operate in day-to-day reality. Never mind try to operate on where can I get information, clear, clean information for leaving the dream, leaving the cave. So don't feel overwhelmed. That's part of everybody's going through that. Anybody on a real journey is going through that challenge themselves. And it's okay. Don't expect that you're supposed to feel completely peaceful and at ease and know exactly where you're going and what's going on. No, in fact, the despair and the confusion and the unknowing is actually a part of showing you're much further on the path, because at the beginning, when very simplistic things are presented and they seem so obvious, it wipes out the confusion. Oh, well, it all makes sense to me. And if you stop there, you just wind up in a false sense of understanding, and are stuck in the new age idea of working with your crystals and saying your mantras and waiting for your next happy moment, as opposed to if you start going deeper and deeper and deeper, and you wind up getting more and more and more confused, more and more realizing that you know less and less and less. That's an important part of the process, because as more and more drops away as false, you open up the space for truth to potentially reveal itself. And that's kind of what it is. You're working through this process. Exiting the cave is also an inner flowering of truth, right? That's a really good way to describe it. It's an inner flowering of truth that's already there, but has been covered, has been walled off, and you're removing the walls, you're removing the covering. So the truth, you're not going to truth, you're not finding it, you're not getting it from somewhere. You have it already. It's just covered by everything. It's covered by so much false that is believed to be true. So it's a very hard process to break through all the walls of these false belief structures to be left with what's actually there and true. And that is the journey. And the deeper you go, the more walls that get revealed. Truth isn't revealed yet, but as the false truths get taken away, you become more and more confused, more and more unsure of where you're going. And it's really easy to stop, really easy to grab onto something, really easy to just find somebody who's going to answer all your questions and just give you a doctrine to follow. And great, I don't have to think, I don't have to go into that confusing place anymore. So it's okay to be there. And there's no guarantee that you'll make the end of the journey, that it'll all come off. You don't know, right? But you can't stop just because you haven't found it yet either. That could happen by your continued commitment and your continued walking of a pathway, the pathway that seems right for you. So I'm sharing all that because I know some people can be challenged and confused, and it's all about just getting the pieces you need to remove the walls of ignorance to reveal what's already there as truth within. It's very simple, right? In its core value. But the process to get there is the process to get there is the unbelievable journey, right? So the the Pilgrim's Progress, right? Which I guess is, if you read that old medieval tale correctly, it's all about the inner journey, and it's all about the journey of being a pilgrim, not to a sacred site. You're being a pilgrim to the truth within yourself. You're being a pilgrim to the true self, to the totality, to that which is not the matrix, right? That's what Pilgrim's Progress is, and the story around it is in some ways the temptations or the challenges or the problems that are keeping the pilgrim from walking the pilgrim path. Best way to do simplifying. I'm simplifying a very complex poem simply, right? So I'll leave it at that for you. I think that's what I wanted to share. Come back to you again in May, as I promise, once or twice a month, to drop by and share with you my views on where things are going and how I'm doing. And back to work. I've got a couple of chapters of the new book almost completed. I've got a little bit done on my own book that I'm writing for myself, and I just keep working on it and see when they get completed. Wishing you well, guys. Cheers.